Thanks for listening to Draw Near with Fred and Kara. And this episode, Fred is not here, but I have the pleasure of getting to talk with a very special guest who you guys have heard a lot about, but I don't think you've ever heard from. So I am sitting here with Fred's wife, Krystal.
Hello.
Yay. And we get to talk about motherhood, and I'm sure there'll be stuff in there about wives. So Fred and BJ's episode, they titled Wives and Whiskey. So we're titling ours Wives and Wine. Because Fred brought us wine, and he filled mine a tiny bit. I told him, I'm like, I get really tired when I drink wine. I'm like, I don't know if I can drive home. And then he filled Krystal's almost to the top.
I'm not nervous or anything.
No,
right?
Yeah, it's to help with the nerves. But it'll be good. We really just kind of want to offer something. I know the fatherhood series was really for everybody, but hopefully the fathers got a lot from it. So we wanted to offer something for our mom listeners, and hopefully the dads can kind of get a little bit of insight into mom brains, I guess.
Yes.
Because they're
definitely different.
Yeah, they're definitely for sure. So Krystal, I want to start just with letting you kind of share a little bit about yourself. I know everyone kind of knows you're Fred's wife, but do you want to share a little bit about you?
Obviously, yes. We've been married today that we're recording actually is our anniversary, 16 years. We
so
have
awesome.
the 6 kids, which I know you all have already heard all of that.
What is something that you like to do?
Hobbies?
Yes,
What?
yes. Do moms get hobbies?
I don't really have anything right now. Everything revolves around the family, basically.
I honestly, I think we had this retreat at work, and they had us go around and share what are some of your hobbies, and I literally said, I have kids. I don't know what a hobby is.
I seriously don't have hobbies right now. I even the dance studio, I'm not really doing that. So I homeschool.
That's a good one. And you and Hannah are doing Lord of the Rings stuff and binging episodes and things those are good.
I mean, that's kind of what we do. We get on a little kick of some topic and we dive into that. I
think that's good.
My hobbies are whatever the kids are interested in.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that's so good.
Something we can do together.
Yeah, that's good. Well,
board games,
yes, yes. That's something I feel you guys have brought me into more. I always grew up with my family playing games, but they were always kind of the party games, when we were all together for Thanksgiving, those catchphrase and those kinds of things.
Right.
So I feel you're being around your family, you kind of brought me into the craft board game,
Well, it all started with Pokemon for us.
Really?
And that's not something that I would have ever thought that I would have even known anything about.
The card game Pokemon?
The card game, yeah.
BJ literally has been on his phone playing the old school
he
Pokemon.
Told me about
He's
that,
going
actually. He
crazy
told us about that.
He's on a search for the old Game Boy so that he can play Pokemon.
Well, when Jacob was little, I was trying to teach him to read, and he just wasn't really interested in anything.
Yeah.
But Pokemon was the thing, and so we taught him the card game. And that kind of helped spark his interest in reading because each one has its own.
You have to read their.
You have to know what they can do, what each card does. And so that kind of helped him to learn to read.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it's good to have hobbies that are also family hobbies because they bring you guys closer together.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay, so we're going to kind of get into marriage and motherhood. And I know you might have specific things that you want to share or don't want to share because it's Fred and that's marriage and that's okay. But I want to ask, what in your opinion is the hardest thing about marriage or about being a mother? You can kind of choose if you don't have something for, I know you said that it was hard for marriage. You were so nice. You're I don't think anything's hard about marriage. I'm man, this question's hard for me because many things are hard about marriage.
I mean, communication is probably what it is because we have 6 kids, so we have lots of activities, and this kid has this and this kid has that. Even today was kind of mad, just trying to balance everything. And so I mean, that's probably part of it, but that's
ours too. BJ always is you're terrible at communication. I'm I know, I'm so sorry.
I don't think that I am. I have a dry erase board calendar that I keep all the things listed on. But for some reason, we still just don't have that where everybody knows what's going on.
Brad doesn't look at the dry erase board.
That is the problem. But again, I don't want to point any fingers.
He'll listen and be like, this is true. This is true. That's funny. Okay, so that's marriage. What would you say might be the hardest thing with motherhood?
With motherhood, I think it's just ever changing.
Yeah.
Babies are hard.
Yeah.
But it's also easy because, you keep them fed, you keep them changed, you keep them clean,
and
and cuddle with them. Yeah. You don't want to put them down. And then, you get into toddlerhood and they're into everything. It just always gets harder. And then it gets easier because they're older, but there's more complicated things happening. So,
right.
I mean, it's just ever changing. So I think that's what's hard about it is just being flexible, rolling with the punches.
And you keep having to kind of adapt a little bit.
You do. Yeah. And then when you have teenagers at the same time as the newborns and toddlers and preschool, and I mean, it's just...
Yeah, I'm not at that stage yet. I feel like I'm definitely going to have to reach out to you and be like, okay.
I am not a pro.
Clara, as a teenager, I'm dreading. Like, her personality. I would be like, oh, this is rough.
We have some of those, too, where I'm like, oh, gosh.
Yeah.
It's hard now.
Yeah.
I am not looking forward to that one getting older.
Yeah. I feel like the baby stage, honestly, is like... You're right, though. It's hard and it's
hard
easy.
because you're not getting much sleep.
Yeah.
You're up all the time. They can't tell you what's wrong, but it's also really easy because you have so many things to check on.
Yep. And then if they're good, they're good.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like...
I mean, you could throw them in the car while you're running errands. It's so easy to travel with a baby. I know some people are worried about that, but it's so easy.
Okay, talk about that actually, because I feel like I always see that question in like Facebook mom groups. Like, I'm going away or I'm going on an airplane or my family's taking a trip. Like, what are must-haves? So you find it really easy. What if there's a mom listening who's like, what? Like, I find it so hard. What do you do that makes it so easy? Like, maybe someone can learn.
Don't really fly, so I don't know, like... if you're traveling on a far distance or anything.
I've only flown once with Clara, and I just wore her, so that would be my tip.
Yeah, baby wearing makes life so much easier. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really does.
Yeah.
But you just need the essentials. Like I said, keep them fed, diapers changed, clean clothes, a bath, and that's it. I take the essentials, and obviously, the more kids you have, what's really essential.
Yeah. I feel like yours is nice, too, though, because you have older kids sitting in the back with them. So you're like, can you put her binky in?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Again, that shift, it definitely gets easier. The third kid was the hard one.
Yeah.
Because it was like, phase. I mean, I only have 2 hands. Mm-hmm. Or there's 2 adults. So what do we do with this third one?
Yeah.
But after that, the other kids are getting older, so they're definitely more helpful. And, you can say, hey, go fill this sippy cup, or hey, go grab that for me. Yeah. And it really does make things so much easier.
Yeah. I think one thing we've done is we have like a travel noise machine. Yeah. So we just like stick that in their car seat.
Fred just has an app that he'll play sounds on his phone like that if we need something.
Yeah, that's helpful.
But
I think Clara's kind of at that stage. I mean, she's only 4.5, but she's kind of at that stage where I can be like, can you go grab me a diaper? But it is hard going from like 2 where you have one parent for each to then they outnumber
both
you.
Both hands if it's just you. But after that,
it's hard. Well, and I kind of feel like I really struggle with this one because Aggie's our third. I struggled with this one because I felt like I'm leaving out my other kids. Like I'm paying so much attention to her. And like we had a lot of struggles at the beginning. Our listeners kind of know a little bit about that. But she's in the background. You're going to hear her little grunts. I'll tell you a story 1 second. I'm kind of jumping on something. But I felt like I kept ignoring like Clara and Gerard, which then I feel really guilty about, and they kind of act out. So that's what I found to be really difficult was like they now outnumber me and I can't give them all my attention.
It's not always easy, but I try to include them as much as I can.
Yeah.
Even if it's, hey, it's time to nurse. Let's turn on Dora or Bluey or, whatever it is so that we're at least all sitting together.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't always play with the toys that I'm offering, like, hey, come play with this while I'm sitting here nursing. But, you know.
It can be hard.
Something to kind of include them, or hey, go grab this for me, so they feel like they're a part.
They're helping in some way.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I said she was in the background grunting. I have to share a really embarrassing thing that happened today. So we went to a funeral of one of our people that we mentor in the summer. They lost a close family member. And so we went to their funeral, and it's like completely silent. You know exactly what I was saying. You know exactly. Completely silent.
We've all been there. If you have a child, you've been there.
And she's just sitting here grunting and lets out just like the grossest. I was so embarrassed.
And it's always at the quietest part too.
So
it's like
quiet.
silent.
Yeah. And like there was an older gentleman sitting in front of me, and like he jumped, like her fart like scared him.
Oh my gosh.
That's
awesome.
So embarrassing.
Oh, that's so funny.
But that's motherhood.
Yep.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. So you kind of touched on like the hard part about parenthood is just that like it's always changing. What's like one of your favorite things or a favorite stage that you have?
I don't know if I have a favorite stage, because I feel like there's fun things at each level.
Are.
Like Zoe right now is 4, but she's learning to read. Yeah. Like we had this shape book the other day, and she was like, she couldn't remember the word, but she's like, oh, it starts with an O.
Oh.
Oval, you know, and she was like so excited. And so, you know, it's fun to like help them to learn new things.
When they were in the car on our way back from CGS, Clara and Zoe were quizzing each other about letters, and like Zoe was learning how to spell Clara's name.
We've been having spelling bees in the car.
That's so cool.
So Clara got included in that the other day. Learning, you know, cat and bat, and I was trying to do like rhyming words, so it's just the first letter that was changing. But, but anyway, like just different ages have different fun things. Like I really like introducing them to things that like we enjoyed when we were younger. Yeah. So that's been kind of fun. Like I said, Pokemon was not one of those things for me. But
what were some of those things?
Well, dance for my girls. Different movies. Yeah. You know, cartoons that we grew up with. Our kids know all the old things. And it's kind of funny because sometimes, like, I know this one time we went to a doctor's office and they had this, you know, sticker basket for the kids to flip through. And it had like Elsa and Anna and like all the new Disney princesses. And my kids dug to the bottom and they were like, Snoopy, Scooby-Doo. And the lady looked at me and she's like, most kids don't know who those are.
Oh, Scooby-Doo was
so
like
funny.
Scooby-Doo is like my childhood,
like
one of my favorite memories.
My kids love it. Yeah. And sometimes they'll watch things and they'll be like, why is this weird? And I'm like, well, this is the newer cartoon of this. And they're like, the other one is so much better. Right. So it's just kind of fun, you know, to re-experience some of those things that we grew up with. Yeah. But with our kids.
Yeah. I like that. That's
good. And I know you mentioned like Lord of the Rings. Yeah. So like Hannah and I have been watching Lord of the Rings. We've been letting her watch Cobra Kai with us. Yeah. You know, some of those kind of things. So
which we have a whole episode about Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
We kind of like it.
Yeah, we kind of like it. And the boys are in Taekwondo right now. Yeah. So it's kind of fun for them.
And Daniel's been sporting a mohawk because one of the characters has a mohawk.
He has. And he hasn't even watched Cobra Kai. He just saw the character and he's like, ooh. And I'm like, my brother used to have a mohawk too when he was little. Yeah. So
and did you want to dye it red?
Yeah, my brother used to dye his hair too, so he was excited about that.
That's super cute.
We tried to do the Kool-Aid dyeing and it didn't work, so we'll have to try again in the near future.
Yeah, that's awesome. You kind of touched on this with like bringing things in from your childhood, but do you have any traditions that you grew up with or memories that you have that you're like, I kind of want to do something like that with my family?
This one is a hard one.
Yeah, it is. I feel like my family had like, we didn't have explicit traditions, but we had like different, kind of like when we would get together, like we would always play a game. Like we would be up really late playing a game. And then as we got older, one of the things that my parents did is when it was Christmas, we would go to midnight mass, and after midnight mass, which was already like an hour and a half, 2 hours, we'd get home and we'd open some presents and we'd have like an egg bake at like 2 a.m. Right. But I can't do that, you know, with a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
So like I didn't grow up Catholic.
Right.
So a lot of those kind of traditions we've kind of had to start from scratch. Yeah. And I mean, I've done some research and like tried to find fun things that we can do. But I mean, there are fun things like driving around and looking at lights at Christmas time.
What are some that you and Fred came up with for your family that you didn't do?
For Christmas specifically?
Sure.
Everything Advent related is definitely something that we've added in.
Yeah.
We did have a Christmas countdown when I was younger, and my mom found a religious Christmas countdown, and so we always do that for Advent. It's like the nativity, so you add a tree or you add a sheep, and then obviously, you know, towards the end you add Mary, Joseph, Jesus. There's the angel and the star. So we do that.
For like parents listening and moms listening who kind of want to know like, okay, what are some ways that I could bring the faith into my home? So like, can you share specifically some of those traditions that you've invented for Advent or for Christmas or whatever?
Jesse tree is probably one of our favorites, and I'm not perfect at it. Sometimes we miss several days, and then we're like, all right, let's do 4 or 5 of these and get caught up, you know. Yeah. But I really love that one because it can be as simple as needed.
Yeah.
We made, let's see, Hannah's 13. So several years ago, I found these coloring sheets for Jesse tree ornaments, and we colored them ourselves. And then because I used to scrapbook when I had free time.
That was your hobby. There you go. That was your
hobby. A long time ago. I am way behind on scrapbooking. But I kind of like started to cut out my own and make it look a little nicer. But it started with coloring sheets. And like I said, she's 13 and we still haven't finished them. A lot of them are still the coloring sheets. But we just put them on like frozen juice, like can lids to make them a little more sturdy. That's how they've lasted this long.
Yeah.
And just it tells Bible stories. Right. So it goes from, you know, the story of the Bible. So my kids can tell me, you know, I'll hold one up now and be like, hey, what's this story? And they'll be like, oh, that's Moses, you know, or, oh, that's David and Goliath, you know, and they've learned the stories without actually having to sit and read the whole story. They can just tell me little bits and pieces. So it's kind of a way of quizzing them.
Yeah, that's nice.
Without like giving them a quiz.
Right.
So, and now, like I said, I'm not good at it. I can have my big kids help me with the little ones. So now Hannah might hold it up or Jacob and be like, hey, what's this story? And if they don't know, then the big kids can tell them the story.
Yeah, that's how it should be.
Or read it to them, but, you know.
Like, that's how it should be. I feel like it doesn't always have to be on the parent, but like the kids handing on the faith to their siblings.
Exactly.
I know that was St. Therese and her siblings. Like, that's so beautiful. I know we do the Advent wreath, and I know you guys do that too. We're terrible, honestly, at remembering to do the prayers.
We don't do it very well.
No, because you're supposed to do the prayers before you eat, and then like light the candle and stuff. We forget a lot, but that's one that we like doing. But one recent one we added was just having a prayer table and like things on the prayer table. So like if Clara wants to read a Bible story, instead of getting out like the kid one we have sitting right next to her, I'll be like, can you go grab the Bible off the prayer table, to show her like it's actually scriptural. It's not like a coloring book. Right, you know, it's not just this like goofy picture book.
Right. It's not just some fun story.
Yeah.
But actually,
it's true. Right. And then like we have one of those candle snuffers.
Yes.
And
they love snuffing.
They love snuffers.
Thanks, CGS.
Yeah. So she'll always come up and be like, can we light a candle? And so if it's me or BJ, and so we'll light a candle and be like, well, we need to say a prayer. So then even if it's just like a simple Hail Mary, but she always wants to just snuff it out.
My kids really like playing with our like our mass kit.
Yeah.
Like, and it's a miniature version, but it really has like the glass pieces and stuff, and so I think that's really fun. They like to play mass. They don't do it regularly, but every once in a while they'll be like, ooh, can we do this? And I'm like, like, why would I say no to that?
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I like that. We have one too, but we haven't gotten to use it because my kids aren't really like, they're not old enough, I don't think, yet. To really, you think they're
CGS? It's there for that age group. You just have to kind of supervise.
Yeah, you would have to,
and make sure they're not like having a tea party with the chalice. You know?
I could see them doing that. Yeah.
Well, my kids, the one time they like put grape juice in, and I was like, yeah, we probably shouldn't be doing that in the living room. You know?
Yeah. That's funny.
And using crackers.
Right. Yeah. So not necessarily traditions from our growing up, but just traditions that are good, like bringing the faith into the home.
And same thing at Easter, we have things we do too. We have like our sacrifice. We have a jar, and they put a bean in every time they do a sacrifice.
Oh, that's a good one.
And then Easter morning, they became jelly beans.
Oh, nice.
So, fun little things like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I like that one. I know Lent's kind of a hard one to think of to prepare them.
It really is.
Yeah, that's a good one though. Okay, this one I feel like, I don't know, maybe the dads, I don't think Fred asked this question with the dads because I don't know if it's as much, but I feel like mom guilt is like such a real thing. And I'm sure a lot of people listening have experienced mom guilt. So I'm curious, have you ever experienced
I don't know if anybody
guilt?
Has not experienced mom guilt.
Yes. Okay.
At some point.
Okay. So what is something that like you kind of have mom guilt about sometimes? And then what's advice that you would give to someone who has mom guilt? Because the easy answer is like, okay, yeah, I'm guilty about this. I feel guilty about this. But then every single person listening and me sitting here is going to be like, you shouldn't feel guilty about that. We're just trying to do our best.
I think it's just not comparing yourself to others. Yes. Because it always looks like, hey, look at how perfect that little family is over there.
Yeah.
And then when you talk to that mom, she'll tell you the same thing. Like, what? I was thinking the same thing about you, And I've had a couple of those conversations recently where I'm like, you are just like, I don't know how you do it. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Right. I feel the same way about you. Like, so I think it's just we get inside of our own heads and we think everybody else, grass is always greener on the other side. You think they're doing it better. But really, everybody's just
trying to make it
different. I mean, every family is different, and something that works for you might not work for me, and vice versa.
Yeah. I know, like, I always feel like I have 2 kids who are talking, and one that is, like, we've already talked about. She's very simple, and I lose my patience so quickly. I'm like, oh, so much talking. Like, I just need quiet time. And then I look at you, and I'm like, you seriously have, like, 9 kids at your house every day. How do you do it? So it's the same.
I don't know how I do it.
So it's the same.
Some days I'm like, oh my goodness, can we play the quiet game for like 3 hours, please?
Yeah. I know. Some days I'm like, is it nap time yet? Is it nap time?
Yes. Sometimes it is a countdown to nap time, but it's hard, especially homeschooling, because sometimes it's like, I finally got everybody to the table that needs to be at the table. Mm-hmm. And then the other ones are playing so loudly, and it's just like, oh my goodness, it's so distracting. Please quiet down.
Yeah.
And you don't want to just be like, hey, watch this movie, because that's the easy way out.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's necessary.
Yeah. Sometimes it's necessary. Yeah. I know, like, we had talked about too, like, I feel like I relate a lot to that too. Like, you look at other people and how they're doing it, and then that's when the mom guilt sets in. But really, you don't know what's going on the inside. Like, we talked about potty training and stuff, and like we tried potty training Gerard, and like the first 2 days I was crying because he was crying.
I am the worst at potty training. So do not take my advice.
Okay, well, we talked about unsolicited advice in the dad one. That's one of the only things that I solicit advice. I'm like, I will read every book because I have no idea. So, but like, you don't know what's going on with that. Like, that was so rough. And like, after the first day, BJ's like, are you okay? I'm like, I feel like a terrible mom.
Yeah.
So like, you never know like what's going on with somebody else too.
Right.
And so I think that would help get away from
mom guilt. I think
it's
frustrating too. Like, I think it's more frustrating for us because we're just like, why do you not get it?
Yeah.
But there's just so many distractions here.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All day long. Mm-hmm. So it's like, yes, I had my timer set to take you to the bathroom, but
yeah, it's hard.
Then the baby was crying, and then so-and-so hit somebody, or, it's all the other things that pop up, and then, oh, shoot, I was supposed to do that, It's just very easy to...
Yeah, it is, but okay, like, we, at that point, then we just say, you know what, it's okay. Like, I'm doing the best that I can.
Right.
So it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I just say... you'll potty train when you potty train.
Just
I'm
go
done.
sit on the toilet.
I give up.
Yeah.
You won't be a teenager and still needing to wear pull-ups. So eventually you'll get this.
It'll happen. That's good. Well, and that makes, then that takes the pressure off of you too. That's good. Okay. Could you share something that I know we've talked a lot about hard things and things that we're excited about. What is something that you are proud of? Like a moment, whether it's in your marriage or a moment in like your mom journey that you're just like, wow, like that was really awesome.
Wow. That's hard because it's hard to give yourself praise.
It is. It's so hard to recognize like, oh, I was a good mom.
I mean, I think, and I'm not saying homeschooling's for everybody, but just the extra time that I get to spend with my kids, I feel like is a good thing. Even when it's frustrating.
Yeah.
But I can't think of something specific.
I think that's
other
good.
Than that.
I'm so jealous of that. Like, just, I don't know.
And I mean, there are times where I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Go away.
I could just send you to school.
Yeah.
So I could have a few hours with just the baby or, but yeah, I think it would just be just that extra time that we get to spend together. It's a hard question. So
yeah, I know. I'm trying to think of if there's something that like I'm proud of. I don't know. Honestly, if I get through a day and I'm not like frustrated, then I'm like, oh, today was a good day. We like had a good outing with the kids. Like it was fun.
Right. Well, I think like with outings, I mean, it just takes practice.
Yeah.
Like somebody told me today, like, I can't believe how well behaved they are. Because we ran to the store earlier to get some shoes for the girls. And the lady at the checkout, I had both of your kids, plus Zoe, plus Francis, and just the two girls. And she's like, oh my goodness.
So like 4 littles and then two older kids.
Yeah. And she's like, oh my goodness, you must have the patience of Job. That's what she told me. And I was like, aw, thank you. Because it doesn't feel that way.
That's a nice compliment.
Yeah, I thought it was really nice too. And I was just like, oh, they look like little angels. I did a good job today.
Yeah, that's good. So I know you have a 13-year-old, and how old's Jake now? Is he 11? Okay, so almost another teenager.
Yeah.
So how for you has the transition been from, just littles to having teenagers? And what advice would you give to parents of teenagers?
I think it's different for us because they have friends, obviously, their age, but it's different because they aren't like going to school, so they're not in a classroom with 20 or so other kids their age. So I feel like my kids get along with all ages because that's part of homeschooling. Yeah. I mean, like we just had a homeschool group outing today, and they were playing flag football, and the little ones were all playing jump rope and different games. But it was all ages together. I think it was like, I'm trying to remember what the age is. Maybe like 6 and under, and then 7 and up were over there playing flag football. And I mean, some of the kids, you're like, how old are they? Because you don't even know. Everybody just kind of meshes together. So I don't really see like, there's some attitude sometimes, but I feel like I haven't really seen a lot of the quote unquote teenage attitudes and things like you hear or see in movies. Do you think you will with the other kids that you're afraid for them to become teenagers? Possibly.
Yeah. I already see it with Clara.
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, I think it's hard to say. I hope they grow out of it and before they get to that. Yeah. But I don't really know.
Yeah. I know Fred and
Time will tell.
Yeah. Fred and I have had that conversation too about like how homeschooling is a better representation of like how you're actually going to be out in the world, because you're not segregated by your age or your grade. Right. So I think that's really cool. And I've gotten to see it too with like your older kids and how they interact with my kids and obviously your kids.
Hannah was over at your house the other night for how many hours?
Yeah, like 2.5 hours, and she just wanted to like hold Eggie, and so she was just like was sitting there and we were watching Survivor, like so it was good. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I have Eggie now, so if you hear little baby coos, she'll talk in the microphone. This one's kind of a fun question, but do you have a favorite go-to family recipe? I know it's different for you guys, but
yeah, we're kind of weird, so and complicated now. Yeah. I would say Mexican is probably our easy go-to because everybody can just throw in what they want, avoid the things they don't want.
Yeah.
Because we have some dairy allergies, we have some gluten allergies. So that's one that's really easy for us. And I've kind of been having fun trying to find substitutes, like making our own cheese sauce. It isn't actually cheese.
What do you make that out of?
There's actually multiple ways. One is with potatoes and carrots, and you add different seasonings, and it actually does taste like cheese. So it's kind of interesting. Some are with sweet potato. So yeah, it's kind of fun because, you know, we've been kind of experimenting and trying different things.
Yeah.
But things like that I think are not necessarily easy when you have to make your own sauce and everything. But
it's kind of nice that Hannah likes cooking so much.
Yes,
and baking.
But my kids like cooking. And Jacob does too. Yeah. So this year I am trying to have each kid take a night where they make dinner because activities have just been crazy lately and I'm exhausted. And so each night, like, this kid doesn't have anything this night or it's not until way later. So I have each kid taking a turn making dinner. So that's been kind of fun.
I like that. That's what my family did too because there were 5 of us. And so everyone got a night of the week.
And they all like it. Like they like cooking. So Lizzie's like, oh, it's my turn tonight. You know, if I throw something together and she's like, but I was supposed to do it tonight. And I'm like, well, sorry.
I always liked it, but I had 2 things that I would make and that's it. So I would just rotate them every other week. It was either tacos or my dad, he calls it special spaghetti. Okay, so if anybody wants an actual recipe, it's literally just spaghetti and then you boil Italian seasoning and throw in some oregano or something. Yeah. Like what you would put on a salad. Not a seasoning, sorry, Italian dressing.
Oh.
Like what you put on a salad. So, and like you can put other things in it like vegetables or whatever, but we would just do spaghetti and then that sauce and he would call it his special spaghetti. So I would always make it because it was crazy easy.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like really simple.
And I've been trying to find some things that are easier, especially for Lizzie. She's 9. Yeah. So, you know, I want to try to, sometimes she wants to make something big and complex and I'm like, maybe we should save that for mommy's night, you know? You can help me, but one little complex for you by yourself.
I am not the cook of our house. BJ cooks like 99.9% of the time, let's be honest. So I liked it as a kid, but I feel like, man, my family's gonna listen to this and they'll be like, you're overreacting, Kara. But this one of the times that I made dinner, I like made this like apple turnover thing, which is super easy. I'll actually tell you what it is if anyone wants to do it, but it's basically crescent rolls and you put it around in like the shape of a wreath and then you put like pie filling, like apple or cherry, whatever, in the middle, and then you like drape the crescent roll over top and like make a wreath. So I made this, we called it apple turnover, and then I was gonna put frosting on the top. And so I was like, where's the frosting? And my mom she's like, it's in the door. And so I see this like container of white and I grab it and I like put it on the whole thing and like dish it up to my family and it was sour cream.
Oh my God.
So nobody ate
that
it.
Was interesting.
Yeah, so nobody ate it and I was like scarred for my cooking journey. So I was just like, I'm never cooking again. So I like to bake, ironically, because it was a sweet thing that I messed up. But yeah, so BJ's the cook in our family.
Well, Lizzie's tried a couple times to make cookies on her own, but like I said, it's not as simple for us because, like I said, we have to do some swapping of ingredients, and like the gluten-free flour doesn't quite work the same. Yeah. I mean, sometimes you can get it to work, but sometimes it takes a little extra, and so we've thrown away a couple batches so far where I don't know if she measured wrong or what, but the one time they were like, it is really salty. So I don't know if she used like baking soda instead of baking powder or, you know, something like that. But or tablespoons instead of teaspoons or I don't know, because she did it on her own and I felt so bad, but she's trying.
Yeah, that's what's good. Well, I know some moms like swear by, what do they call Instapots? Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
We don't have one, but I do like slow, like,
crock
pots. Thank you. I do like slow cooked meals. So BJ went back to work from his leave for Aggie. And so it's just been me with the 3. And like, we have errands to run and stuff like that and like dance and things. And like, I was like, I have such an appreciation for crock pots.
I love like, my Instant Pot for rice. For whatever reason, I cannot cook rice.
I can't cook rice either.
On the stovetop. It's just, I don't know. I think I just have too many distractions. So I can't check on it to make sure that there's still liquid in there. Yeah. I don't know. For whatever reason, it never turns out right. But in my Instant Pot, I get it every time.
Nice.
But my crock pot I use a lot too.
Yeah.
For soups especially. And
yeah. Nice. Well, if anyone is interested doing something like Krystal, like rotating, like who makes meals, I feel like that's such a load off of the parents too, especially if you have the older kids. One thing that we would do when I was growing up is like we had this chart. Basically, it was like it was like this cutout, like you cut out a little strip so you can see whose name, and then you fold it so that a piece of paper can fit inside of it, and everyone's name is written on it. So like you literally just each week or each day, whatever, pull the little slip down. And that's how we did chore charts too. It was like, okay, this week you're in charge of vacuuming and you're in charge of dishes, so you don't have the same thing all the time. But I liked those. I thought they were, and they just hung on the fridge. They were so convenient.
I bought a dry erase board.
Nice.
And
yeah, that's easy too.
I have my calendar one that's big for like our appointments and regular activities.
Yeah.
And then I bought a second one that's probably like, I don't know, maybe like 8x8 or something. Yeah. It's a smaller one, but it has like rows. So it's just like 1 week. So then I just wrote each person with a wet erase marker so it doesn't wipe off.
Yeah.
And then they can just use the dry erase marker to write down whatever it is that they're making that night.
Yeah, because you have to go get groceries.
Make sure I have the ingredients.
Yeah, exactly.
Jacob kept wanting to make burgers, and I'm like, yeah, you need to tell me that ahead of time so I can have burgers for you to make.
Yeah, that's funny. Okay, this might be our last question. I'm curious because obviously this is draw near, so we talk about the faith, and we shared a little bit about like the traditions and stuff. But what is a way that you bring faith into the home? Whether it's like teaching, obviously with homeschooling and stuff, or prayer, like time for prayer.
Well, I think the most important thing is just, one, going to Mass regularly, and also making time for prayer. We always pray together at bedtime, of course. I think that's the easiest, and at meals. But I think during the day, it's much harder.
Yeah.
We do really good for a while, and then we kind of slack off. And, so we kind of go up and down with that. But we try to have a rosary time. Even if it's weekly, I think we need
that's a win.
Do a little better.
No, that's a win.
About that. And we were praying morning prayer together every morning, me and the kids, because we couldn't quite get everybody up and ready before Fred would have to go to work. So we really need to get back into that before our school day starts is usually what we try to do. But
I think honestly, it is hard. Like that's what I was just going to say too. Like I've always said, whenever you're in the car, just take time to pray. But then when I was home for leave and we're not in the car, I'm like, man, we haven't really intentionally prayed together in a while. And so I feel like, it's hard. It would be so hard to set that time aside, like at home when everyone's kind of all over the place and doing their own thing.
Yeah, it's hard, especially because like each evening we have a different schedule. So this person is gone until 8, or this person is gone until, So it's just like, when is a good time to have everybody together?
Yeah.
And there's nights where all the big kids are gone and, just the little ones are at home with Fred. And I'm like, are we even going to have bedtime prayer all together as a family tonight? Or will they already be asleep when I get home? Which is nice when that happens.
Yeah. I feel like my kids have learned some of their prayers, though, from being here.
Yeah.
Like, we pray them in the car, but how you guys would teach your kids is then, like, how my kids became familiar with them.
Right.
So will you share kind of how you would teach, like, the rote prayers of the church to your kids?
So a lot of times we will start saying the prayer, but then kind of, like, leave it hanging so they say the next word.
Yeah.
Also, another thing that we do is, like, when we were praying the rosary, obviously the toddlers aren't going to quite pay attention. So I get a little pile of, like, saint prayer cards for them to play with. So they're still sitting with us, or give them their own rosary so they can play with it. They're not counting beads.
No,
but, just something to include them. And the repetition. They hear everybody else saying it. They'll pick up on it eventually.
Yeah, I think we were praying one time in the car and we started doing a Hail Mary, and it like shocked me. This was a while ago. It shocked me when like Clara knew it. This was when she was maybe a couple years ago.
Yeah.
When she started saying it with me, and I was like, what? Because in my mind, I'm like, we haven't said it enough for you to know it. And so then I knew it was because, you know, you guys say it here. But you guys basically will do like hail, and then they have to say
Mary,
they
say the next word.
Yeah, yeah. And I like that a lot. So that's kind of how we have done it with Gerard, too.
Yeah. It's funny, though, because some of the kids I feel like pick up on it so much faster than others. Like, I wonder sometimes, like, does this kid even know these prayers? Like, they're there. They hear us saying it, but I'm like, I don't know if they know these. But then other times it's like, oh, okay. Yeah. They are getting it, you know.
Sorry for all the listeners who are going to hear Aggie. She's crying in a little bit in all of these, but...
she's got a very serious expression right now, so...
Just brows furrowed down her.
Yes. I was going to say, we do the same thing with, like, the Baltimore Catechism.
Yeah.
Usually it's the First Communion one that we start with. Really, I will be starting that with Daniel very soon.
Yeah.
But, you know, we just ask the questions, and they recite it back to us. And I know some people think, oh, that's old, we don't need to do that anymore. But my kids retained so much of that. Yeah. And they really like it.
That's good. Okay, I do have one more question. I lied. It wasn't our last question. This one is about marriage. So, obviously, obviously Fred is one of the co-hosts. So I think they would like to hear a little bit, like, did you always know that you wanted to get married? And like, what drew you to Fred and like knowing you wanted to marry Fred?
You know, it's funny. And I know he's told this story before, but we didn't even know we were dating for a while. We were just friends and we just hung out together. And then we realized, I think we're dating.
Yeah.
So it was. I mean, we did kind of, I think even if we weren't really talking about it, I think we did know, like, this is the one. This is it, you know?
Yeah.
But it wasn't something we ever really, like, discussed or anything.
Yeah. So what kind of drew you to him?
I don't even know.
16 years later, it might be a different thing because you grow and you change. And
I mean, we met. He was always bringing his guitar. Mm-hmm. Not that that's necessarily what like made me like him, but I don't know. I would just always listen.
Yeah.
And he was just easy to talk to, and I don't know.
And then you guys went through your conversion together, and that has to bring you closer.
Everything, we've done everything together. Like it is not. It's an interesting story because neither of us were going to church at the time regularly, and then we started going to church together, and then every step of the way we've just gone together.
Yeah,
from Protestant church to coming into the Catholic Church. Like everything has just been together.
I think it's a beautiful witness, but it's so unusual.
It is unusual. Yeah. It is.
I think that's awesome.
I see a lot of people talking about that. Like, I converted, but my husband,
how do I get my spouse?
There. How do I do this?
Yep.
And I can't really relate because I'm like, I don't know because we just did it together.
Yeah.
Well, he would come home from school and be like, did you know that this saint said this and did this? And we'd be like, well, we already believed that, And so we were just really relating to some of the teachings of the early church, and we did realize that we had a lot of Catholic beliefs.
Yeah. I think that's honestly key, like for anyone listening who is in a situation where maybe their spouse isn't Catholic or isn't as strong in their faith. I honestly feel like that's the key to it. Like he came home and shared what he learned. Like it wasn't like he was growing by himself apart from you. It was like he wanted to bring you with. So if you're learning new things, share that.
He was going to college.
Right.
And I was home with the little ones. So, I mean, I wasn't learning right along with him, but he would come home and discuss the things with me. So there's that communication again.
Yeah. But in a good way.
Right. But the opposite way.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's good advice, I think, for any of our listeners. Like if you have people in your life, whether it's a spouse or a friend or a child, like just share the things that you're learning with the excitement that you have about it. And eventually like they'll have that excitement too, or they'll at least have the curiosity to keep looking into it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Awesome. Well, I just want to thank you, Krystal. I know you were nervous. Guys, she was nervous. You couldn't even tell. Like, you really couldn't. It's because of the wine.
Probably.
Yeah. But
and I'm holding a baby now, so that helps ease.
Yeah. But thank you, everyone, for listening. And I hope that this has helped. And I think we're going to continue to do a mom series, but it might be a little bit kind of scattered. But I'm excited for it. And if anyone has questions, like, or moms have things that they're actually like, you know, I would like to know more about this, go to drawnear.me and click the Contact Us page and just submit a question that you're curious about, and we'll add it to the episode. So thanks for listening and have a good day.